Welcome to the WingSpace Podcast, a place to take up space, a space for you to settle in, sit back, relax, and focus a little bit on health, wellness, faith, family, and this crazy thing called life.
This podcast is not a replacement for mental health treatment or professional health care. In case of crisis or emergency, please contact your local healthcare provider or dial 911.
Hey there, and welcome to the WingSpace Podcast, a place to take up space. Welcome back to the podcast. We've taken a little bit of a break over the summer, and I am excited to share with you where we've been, where we're going, and what you can expect in season 4. Just a quick bit of information about some upcoming things we've got going on at Hope and Healing. Stay tuned.
Hey mamas, whether you are preparing for or recovering from childbirth, this 6-week progressive series coming soon to Hope and Healing is for you. Join Carlin Davensizer this September for pelvic floor physical therapy classes, curated especially for our pre- and postpartum community members. If you experience pelvic floor symptoms, diastasis, or pelvic, hip, and back pain, the movements and exercises will be beneficial for your core and pelvic floor. To register or ask questions, email admin@hopehealingtherapy.com.
So welcome again to the WingSpace Podcast. I'm really excited to be sharing with you season 4. I cannot believe we're at season 4, but what I really cannot believe is that Hope and Healing is celebrating its sixth year anniversary. It's been pretty incredible, and I'm going to share a little bit more about that later, but for those of you that are just clicking play for the first time here at the podcast, I want to give you a little bit of a recap about kind of where we've been so that you can find yourself invited to going back and listening. So we started our first season last year to kick off our 5th anniversary at Hope and Healing. With season 1, we had a little bit of a rough start. We had some recording issues. We had some sound issues. It was me trying to figure out what in the world I was doing because I had absolutely no idea. And we had a few guests on a few episodes, and we completed 30 episodes. It was pretty incredible for a first season. So anyway, earlier this year, it was season 2. We had worked out many of our kinks, and we introduced several more guests, and we had 24 episodes. So what you'll see in season 1 and season 2 is really looking at lots of different components of wellness, importance of sleep and nutrition and hydration and movement, overall wellness. And my goal for those episodes and my goal for going in the future is just nuggets, right? Like, not everything that you listen to is going to be applicable. There's certainly times when I listen to podcasts, and I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I'm like, yeah, this doesn't really apply. But I continue to listen because, number one, I want to support the podcast folks, and also I'm learning. So the topic itself may not be important, but I'm learning about how to record a podcast and things to do and not to do and that kind of thing. So consider, what can you take from a podcast when the topic might not be exactly what you're thinking that might be applicable to you. So you can expect more of that in our upcoming season. And then we took a little bit of a shift. The early part of the summer, we did a mini season, which was season 3, where we had 6 episodes, and all 6 episodes had guests. And that was really cool for us to talk with some community leaders and experts to share about what they do and what they know best. So if you haven't listened to season 1 or season 2 or season 3, I would really encourage you to go back, find some topics that work for you, give us some grace in those early years as we were figuring out sound. Really, I was figuring out sound issues and things like that. And then I hope that brings you right back up to speed with where we are. So let me just tell you where we're going in season 4. This set up to be our biggest season yet. We have 32 episodes on the lineup, assuming that life doesn't get in the way and recording doesn't get halted for some reason. I and Les, our podcast editor, our marketing director at Hope and Healing, she and I both have some trips that we've got coming up this fall. So the plan is to do some front loading and get the recording done so that she and I can both enjoy those trips. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we're going to be set up for 32 episodes. That'll take us right up to Christmas. Phew, I can't believe we're talking about Christmas, but I also can't believe that when you're listening to this, it will be September. So we are going to kickstart the September episodes on the podcast with a celebration of the 6th anniversary at Hope and Healing. And we're going to be introducing this idea of We've Got Your Six. And you all have probably heard this before. It's oftentimes a military and or law enforcement term. And it's the idea that we've got your back. And it originated during World War I with fighter pilots. And they would say, I've got your six, meaning I've got the back of your plane. When you're a fighter pilot, you can't see the back of your plane. I don't know, maybe technology has changed and maybe there's a camera back there now. I don't know. But World War I, certainly there were not cameras back there. So you'd have here I'm going to really talk about something I have no idea, but this is going to sound really good. So you should listen. There's the wingman who is totally checking out the rear of your plane to make sure there's no enemy coming up behind you, right? That's what I'm imagining it means. For us, that's for a military perspective, but for us here at Hope and Healing and for the WingSpace Podcast, it truly is, we've got your back. We're here for you. We're in it with you. And what we want to be able to do is provide you with information that's going to equip you to have a healthy, happy, safe, fulfilled, thriving life. I don't want people just surviving. I don't want people just going through the motions and kind of getting through day by day. I want you to thrive. I want you to enjoy your life. I want you to feel good, feel well, feel whole, physically, spiritual, emotionally. And so we're going to tap into 6 different components of wellness during the course of September. I tapped on just a couple of those a minute ago, but I'll say them again. So we're going to talk about emotional wellness, social wellness, occupational wellness, intellectual wellness, spiritual wellness, and physical wellness. And we're going to talk about how all of them fit together. There is an episode in season 1 where I talk about 8 components of wellness. And depending on who you're looking at from the research standpoint determines whether or not there's 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 10. I think one even has 12. But for the sake of sticking with the magic number 6 for this year, we're going to go with 6 components of wellness. So I want you to kind of stay tuned for that coming up in September. And then October, we're going to bring in some new guests, which I'm excited to have some new guests on the podcast. We've got some new topics that we're going to introduce to you. And we're also going to have some fun yet practical conversations about some of the silly national holidays. Many of you have probably heard of those, National Ice Cream Day, National Cupcake Day. Maybe it's because I'm a little bit hungry yet, haven't fully finished my breakfast. I'm going to just stay with the food themes. National Taco Day. Stay tuned for October, National Taco Day. Those conversations about those kind of silly national holidays, where these people come up with things like this, I have no idea. But that's going to lead us right into the full swing of the holiday season, where I hope that you'll take us along on your cleaning, your gift wrapping, your holiday preparations, your shopping, and just have some good information flooding into your brain while you're doing all the things that have to be done for the holidays. And that ends us with 32 episodes. Whew. There's a lot to be done. Planning and preparing between now and the end of that the end of that season, not only for us, but for all of us in life, right? And we'll talk about life and the things that we are blessed to enjoy as we go through some of these topics that we're going to talk about. But real quick, I want to give you a recap about what I've been up to. So what has the summer brought for me? We ended, like I said, the 3rd season with some conversations about some folks in our community. And our very last episode was that summer bucket list episode. Again, I hope you'll go back and listen to some of those. We are going to share some bucket list type episodes in this next season. There'll be one related to fall. There'll be one related to the winter. And I didn't actually make a bucket list this year. I have in the past actually written out the things that I want to do or I want to do with my family. And this year I did not do that. And part of the reason why was because we had a very busy spring into summer. You may have heard this in the end of season 2 and into season 3. So my son was a senior. He plays lacrosse. I'm the team mom for the lacrosse team. So we had all of the lacrosse stuff. Plus we had senior night led into graduation. Then he turned 18. He went on his first solo trip to the beach, and it was great. Lots of young adult things that were happening for him, and that's exciting to watch him to grow and to learn this launching phase. New territory for us all, for sure. But instead of us having this super fun summer with lots of things to do, we really embraced and spent a lot of time doing the graduation stuff, the senior stuff. Last summer, we had taken him on a senior trip to Costa Rica, just the 4 of us, to kind of kick off the senior summer into his senior year, and then that ended the celebration with his own beach trip. And then we took a trip as a family with my brother and his children and my mom, which was actually a bucket list for my mom. So a little bit of background. My husband goes on a camping canoe trip to Maine every August or September and has for, close to 20 years. And my dad had gone on a couple of those trips, especially in the early years. My husband would probably know exactly how many trips he went on, but I remember the first time he went on the trip, he came back, he told my mom how much he loved it and said, "I'll take you one day." Okay, so fast forward 20-ish years. My dad passes away December of 22, and he had not taken her to Maine. So we as a family, mom, dad, brother, sister, children, things like that, we'd always gone kind of every year for the last 10 or 12 years. We would go on vacation, we'd go to the beach, we'd go to Massanutten, whatever it is. And earlier this year, I just said to my mom, "You want to go to Maine, so let's go to Maine. Let's not go to Massanutten this year. Let's do something different." So we found an Airbnb, and it was great. This place was phenomenal. The downfall, I will say, is that it was a little bit further out from where we wanted to be. So we really wanted to explore Bar Harbor and Mount Desert Island, Acadia National Park. And this place that we found was like a little gem in the middle of nowhere on a lake. Beautiful, beautiful home, beautiful view. But we did spend a lot of time on the road kind of getting to Mount Desert Island and getting to do the things that we wanted to do. But ultimately, we were able to take mom on this trip. We saw up close and personal with lighthouses. We went whale watching. They were very active, several pods of them. So that was really cool. And mom got to eat fresh lobster, which I guess I should have prepared her that I was going to talk about this. But surprise, mom, I'm going to talk about your experience with lobster because I think it's really funny. You know, we have preconceived notions, right, or experiences about what things should be. And so if you've never had fresh Maine lobster, then, and your only experience is, making it yourself or eating it at a local food chain, then you expect it to be a certain way. And we go to this lobster pound, and pretty famous on Southwest Harbor. Several folks had told my husband, if I'm going to get lobster, this is where I'm going to get it. So we go, and my mom has this huge plate and this giant lobster's on the plate. And it didn't quite taste the way that she thought it was going to. And so we kind of joked about, well, when you only have a certain restaurant's version of lobster, then you don't really have much to compare to. But it was a lot of fun to crack open lobsters and to just experience that with mom for the first time. And here's the lesson that I want you all to take from our experience, and that is take the trip. Take the trip. Stop putting off, "I'll do this one day," or "we will get there one day." Plan it. Now, having said that, I will share with you that my husband and I have several trips that we want to take. I know in my heart of hearts that we're going to take those trips. It's a matter of, okay, this trip is this year, this trip is next year. We're going to take the trips. God love him and rest his soul, but my dad was not going to take the trip. I'm not sure when he would have taken Mom to Maine. Obviously, he didn't take Mom to Maine, and that's okay because we had an opportunity to take her and experience that. But ultimately, I would encourage you to take the trip, right? Do the thing. Eat off the fancy china. When my grandmother passed away, and shortly thereafter, my grandfather gave me their china, and it was a very mix match group, right? I think there's 5 plates, there might be 10 saucers, there some things broke, some things didn't, but I have it. And then fast forward to the fall winter of 2019, we moved into the basement apartment with some of our friends while we were building our house, and those were the dishes that we took. My husband was like, "Are you sure you want to take these dishes?" Yeah, I'm sure, because we will be able to use these dishes that were important to my grandparents while we are in an important transition period of our life. So use the fancy dishes. Don't save them for a special occasion, because we really don't know if today's the last occasion to use them, right? Take the trip, take the picture, have the conversation, whatever it is. But when we put things off until tomorrow, we sometimes lose the opportunity for there to be a tomorrow. Not quite where I thought that conversation was going to go with you today, but really I want to encourage you, take the trip, plan ahead for what's coming. My husband and I are going on a cruise later this year to celebrate our 20th anniversary, which these trips that we go on are kind of a funny story. We went to the Dominican Republic for our honeymoon. And I remember we were sitting on the beach one day, and it was, warm breeze coming off the beach. He's in the sun, I'm in the shade. And I said, one of us said, we should come back here every 5 years. After we have children and life is chaotic, we should come back here every 5 years. And we agreed on it. So as we approached, 3.5, 4 years of marriage, we were like, okay, so we need to plan this 5-year trip. And we both realized that we had a wonderful time in the Dominican, but there's really a whole lot more to see in the world and in our country than that one place. So every 5 years we choose a different place. For 5 years we went to Hawaii. For 10 years we went to Costa Rica. For 15 years we went to Jamaica. And then here for 20 years we're going on a cruise. Neither of us have ever been on a cruise other than the time that he spent in the Navy, which I'm sure his experience will be much different. And we're excited for that. And then we know we have my other son's senior trip next summer, and we've talked to some friends about maybe doing a trip to Ireland. And, it's not putting it off and we'll do that one day. It's looking at the calendar and figuring out when we can do these things, right? So I would say look at the calendar, book the trip, plan the adventure, and don't put off till tomorrow. This is quite the cliche. Don't put off till tomorrow what you can do today, right? So take the trip. Speaking of trips, we also had summer lacrosse this summer. We had a couple of tournaments with my youngest son, and that's going to lead us into fall lacrosse, which will be exciting. I love to watch them do the things that they love to do. And I'm recording this middle of August, so you're going to listen to it in early September. And what I've got coming up is we're going to take a quick trip to the beach and do some back to school shopping at the outlets. And we are currently in the recovery season for wisdom teeth extraction. So we have a very cute, adorable, blonde-haired chipmunk at home right now with very, very puffy cheeks, who's doing really well with his recovery from his wisdom teeth. And, that's another thing, right? Like, doctor said we need to get them pulled. We didn't put it off. Let's just go ahead and get it done. And here we are. Lots of ice cream and yogurt and oatmeal and really squishy noodles are trying to keep him full. But, that takes us into September. That takes us into fall. That kickstarts our 4th season here at the podcast and our 6th year at Hope and Healing. I want to extend a sincere, very sincere thank you to all of you that have listened, that have shared the podcast. I really appreciate you embracing this journey of mine when I was like, oh, I'm going to do a podcast. I probably had more people than I can count look at me as though I had 2 heads, maybe 3, because I don't know, what does she know about recording a podcast? And here we are on our season 4, and that's really exciting. The same thing that happened with Hope and Healing when it opened is what happened with this podcast, and that is the community has embraced us as a, I don't know if I'd say a staple in the community, but certainly a mainstay, and I really, really appreciate that. So I'm really excited to see what's coming up in season 4. Let me say that differently. I know what's coming up in season 4 because I've already got the whole season planned. There might be some shifts here and there, but I'm excited to share with you as we go along the things that are coming up on the podcast. Here's my invitation to you. Even though I have a pretty solid outline for what is to come, I have 2 invitations. The first invitation is later on in the season, we're going to do a listener question episode. So we'll put some information out about gathering your questions, but here's a great time to start. Like, what's a question you'd like to ask me? Or if you have a question for any of our guests that we've had before, send them my way. You can email me, jennifer@hopehealingtherapy.com. You can also send us a DM on Facebook or Instagram and just say like, hey, I have a question. So listener questions. I would love to respond to the questions that you have. And is there a topic that you would like to hear me speak about? If you've listened to seasons 1, 2, and 3, and you're like, yeah, there's something missing that I'd like to hear, send that my way, because I know that I can tweak it, tweak the season's plan. I know that I can fit it in there. And maybe if it's something I've already talked about, that maybe you haven't been a previous listener, I can help you to find the episodes that we've already talked about those topics so that you can get that information. But I'm totally open to whatever you all would like to hear and how I can best serve you so that you're walking away with the nuggets that you need in order to be well. So as the podcast has said, we talk about all things health, wellness, faith, family, and this crazy thing called life. So, we've touched a little bit on health and wellness throughout the season. We've talked about health, wellness, faith, family, life. So we've talked about life. We've talked a little bit about family stuff and little dabbles, tiny little sprinkles of faith, but I'm probably going to bring that in a little bit more too because it's a foundation of who I am. So kind of stay tuned for us to really focus more in our episodes on health, wellness, faith, family, and life. So I'm excited for season 4. Thanks for listening, and I hope you have a great day.